let's talk about Bad Attitude. Obviously, the album's been out. The song is out. I was listening to one of your interviews where you're talking about how it was a struggle to get that final, attitude, if you will, on the song. The genesis of that particular tune, how did the beginnings of it come about?
The beginning of Bad Attitude, like the idea of it, kind of stemmed from my dad's band from before I was even born. He was in a band called Bad Attitude in like the 90s. And whenever, they never really, did anything or really went anywhere. They all grew and went different directions. And so when I grew up and became a musician, that was one of those things that it was kind of like an inspiration for me because I never got to go see them. And then so I started to amass somewhat of a reputation myself, and then that turned into a bit of branding with the band and turned into the band name Drew Cagle The Reputation. And I couldn't think of a better name for a debut album than Bad Attitude at that point in time. And then so I was like, okay, well, I've got to write a song to go with it too. So then that's pretty much from the beginning of my career has been one of those songs that you just have to really believe in and try to, walk to the finish line. And so there were so many steps over the many years that I've been doing this that it has evolved in different ways and taken different shapes and slowly went along in this process all the way up until, we're lucky enough to have Tracii Guns playing guitar on it. So I'm glad that I never kind of steered away from where I came from.
How did you connect with Tracii Guns, L.A. Guns to even perform with it? Because obviously that led to, over a year ago, getting involved, getting him on the track. But how did you first connect with them in the first place?
So we had played a couple shows with those guys, I think in February of 2023 or 4. And we had opened with Bad Attitude. At that point in time, we were opening the shows with it. And Tracii was blown away, and he loved the song. And I ended up talking to him and meeting him after the run of shows that we did. And he said he loved the song, and I said, "Hey, man, I'm glad you love the song. We're just in the middle of getting ready to finish it, and we're missing this piece of this puzzle here." And like you said, it was a song called Bad Attitude, and it just didn't have the attitude that was needed. It didn't have the grit and the energy and the rebellion that you're supposed to hear in a song called Bad Attitude. And it was so cool to have him say, I love the song, I'd love to play on it and see what I can do. And then what he ended up sending over was just on another level.
So how can you tangibly describe his style, I guess whatever essence he brings to that guitar solo? Of course, he's obviously one of the better-known guitar players out there, but specifically to your song, how can you, if you had to put it in a paragraph, what Tracii Guns brings to a song of yours based on that solo?
Well, he brings a lot of things to the table. Tracii Guns is a rock and roll legend. So anytime you have a real guitar hero on a track, the audience feels it. Just there's something different about those guys, especially the ones that really shined on the Sunset Strip back in the day. What he brings to it is he brings that effortless rock and roll piece of the puzzle that so many rock bands these days don't have anymore. It feels comfortable. It feels like he just sat down immediately, played the whole thing, and sat the guitar down and walked away. That's what rock and roll should be. It should be. There should be an energy to it that is, an energy and swagger that really comes through without even having to say a word, just through your playing. And Tracii is the epitome of being able to do that and convey this confidence and this swagger and this sleaziness onto a song when you would have known it was him playing it, even if his name wasn't even on the track. And that's what he brings to the table is there's only one Tracii Gunn.
Mm-hmm. What I noticed hearing that song, and then in the context, hearing it actually on the radio, there's one thing to hear it in headphones or on a speaker. It's another thing to hear it just on like an FM radio in a car, which is exactly how I heard it yesterday afternoon, and then to put it in the context of other songs that are out there. I never want to have like an opinion necessarily on any type of rock, because they all bring something to the table. But what I've observed, maybe you've observed this as well, perhaps, at least in active rock radio now, there's a lot of one style. You can get too much of one thing. There's a lot of like, it's like the struggle to overcome, and that's good, but there's a lot of that, and it's not necessarily feel-good rock. And I felt good listening to Bad Attitude, like, okay, this is different. I feel like I'm listening to rock. Now, you're obviously not one style. You got a bunch on the album, as I've heard as well. Do you see a value to bringing something different into the current rock scene in a musical sense and maybe an up-tempo sense?
I think it absolutely needs it. I don't even think there should be a second thought about it. I mean, I think it's very obvious to everyone that the state of rock and roll isn't what it once was, and I mean the people making the rock music now need to take a look and see why. And if you're kind of regurgitating the exact same produced or overproduced kind of same song over and over and over again and expecting the fans to just accept it and be happy that they get the new song that's exactly the same as the old song, meet the new boss, same as the old boss here. And, the fans want something new. I'm a fan too. I want something new. I want something to make me feel excited. I want to create rock music that makes fans that have been fans of rock music for 30 years feel young again. I want it to feel energetic. I want it to be exciting. I want it to feel like rock and roll has something to prove again. And it just feels like right now there's not that authenticity in these songs that really needs to shine through, because ultimately it doesn't matter what the tempo of the song is or how you play it or anything like that. What really matters is the emotion and the authenticity of the song, so they can connect to the people. And if people aren't doing that, then why would you ever expect a fan to jump on board on something like this,
Mm-hmm. I was looking through the list of musicians on this, and you mentioned the sound. Well, part of that sound comes from the quality of the people that are on board. I saw like names like Shannon Forrest and seen the connections with the others. How did you get connected to, as you put it in one of the other interviews, the A-list? Those are some pretty good studio cats in Nashville. How do you hook up with them, and how did you know what are the right ones to bring the right sound for you?
Yeah, man. I mean, they're the best. Shannon Forrest is always the right one. I'll start with that. Shannon Forrest is the drummer for Toto. He plays everything right. He is one of those guys that wasn't even a second question when it was like, oh, we can bring in Shannon Forrest from Toto, which Toto is notoriously one of the most successful backing and studio bands there ever was. And so to be able to bring him into it and him to bring this huge thunderous drum sound was incredible. The thing that kind of brought it all together was when I kicked the thing off and partnered in this project with Matt Cole, the producer for the Eagles, and Alice Cooper. And so whenever I got to work with him, he wanted to try out some studio guys, and I was like, it was my first time down there. I wasn't quite sure, and I didn't quite understand the scope of these musicians. I was like, oh, well, I've never played these songs with them before. They're not going to know, how to play them. And just naive me, not understanding, these are the greatest musicians there are alive. And so then, I go into the room, and these guys start knocking these songs out, in one take, better than I've ever heard them played ever before. And, just really were open to the collaboration process of creating the music, and really were excited. And you could tell, I recorded down in Nashville, and a lot of the recordings that go on down there are country music and stuff like that. So when you get a young kid with a lot of energy coming in with these exciting new rock songs, and pretty much telling all these seasoned musicians to kind of take the gloves off and show why you were great, they all really got excited, and man, they all just brought their A game to the table.
That makes me encouraged. I've recently read Steve Lukather's autobiography, which I know goes back several years, and I finally got around to reading it. But I've heard the anecdotes over time, and he writes in his book about the studio scene isn't what it used to be, and we know why. I mean, technology's advanced, the dynamics of music have changed. It's reassuring to know that there is an environment where they still do that. And of course, ironically, like you mentioned, there's a member of Toto who's part of this. But it's good to know that that's still around and it's still viable with younger folks that are still getting going.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, the landscape has changed, especially with, like you said, the new technology and stuff. But when, as long as you have new artists coming out, especially artists, like myself, that really care about everything being done authentic and not being done with a bunch of technology, and just having musicians play the songs and press record and have the magic of what happens when bands gel, and when a song gets created, like that stuff is what's really exciting. And I just think if a lot of people go back to that, I think we'll be looking a lot more exciting towards the future, especially. But I guess to each their own. I guess that's kind of what makes us unique, and what makes us different is I look at things a little bit different than the way everyone else does. So I'm excited that I was able to do that with this new record, and I can't wait to keep making more records like this that kind of have that old classic feel on the way they get created, but with a new modern take on the state of rock.
Which song from this record has gotten the best fan reaction?
So we did a full tour for the first single, All Figured Out, last year, and that did great. It ended up hitting number one on the classic rock charts, and it was played on Alice Cooper's show and a bunch of other things like that, and people really seemed to love that song. And then I'd say I'd place probably All Figured Out, that song, but then this new album just came out in January, so we just played our first show since it came out last weekend, and the crowd was really into it, and they were already singing the songs and stuff like that. So I'm really excited to see after this tour ends what the song will be, the answer to your question, because I don't think I've been able to perform the songs in front of the crowd long enough to really judge which songs have impacted the people the most.
Well, speaking of live performances, the last question for you has to do with the performance right nearby here, coming up tomorrow over north of Ringgold, east of Wausau at the Q&Z Expo Center, part of the Live, Laugh, Love Tour performance. Whole lot of people on the docket. You're one of the performers tomorrow night. Tell us what to expect. Anyone who's listening to this beforehand, what are they going to see at that performance over at the Q&Z Expo Center?
This is actually really funny. This is probably the first time when someone's asked me, what can we expect, that I can honestly tell you I have no idea.
Nice.
The musicians on this bill are just incredible. We have Peter Keys from Lynyrd Skynyrd. We have Scotty Austin from Saving Abel. We have Peter Dante there from the Adam Sandler movies, telling the stories and jamming with us. It's just gonna be a party. It's gonna be a fun time. We're all gonna go play songs from all of our catalogs, probably play some new stuff, probably jam on some songs everyone's heard of. I'm sure you guys have heard of the little known band called Lynyrd Skynyrd, so I'm sure there's some stuff you could sing along to with that. I think it's just going to be a party, man. It's going to be an acoustic show, but it's so many different rockers doing a stripped back show that it's I don't know. I've never felt like an acoustic show could go off the rails before, but I really have the feeling that these shows can get pretty crazy, and at the very least, they're just going to be an absolute blast, and I can't wait to bring the show to Ringgold, and I can't wait to do the next night in Fountain, Minnesota, and I think it's just going to be. I just think it's going to be a blast with our fans up there in Wisconsin.
That's going to be really good. Some awesome weather up here right now. You'll definitely enjoy being around here. Drew, nice to chat with you about Bad Attitude, the song, and the album, and the show coming up tomorrow. Have a lot of fun with these upcoming shows, and all the best going forward.
Thank you so much, man.